on my face. Hello.
If you only knew what we were just talking about,
Love.
you may not continue, or they would watch more often.
Yes.
It depends on their thing. Hey guys, this is Andy and Hedia coming to you live from Orange County, California. We are together on the same set.
Woohoo!
This is called a set right here.
This is the set. We gotta be cool backdrops.
Or it could be called family room.
Depending on, and it's also where we eat occasionally.
It is.
Watch TV.
That is true. Hey, last night we got to meet one of our dedicated supporters. Priscilla Rocha came.
Nice.
I know.
It was lovely. Like to see her in the flesh, you see her online. It was lovely.
Yeah. Hopefully she'll join us this morning if she's not already on. But it was fun. It was a great message from our great pastor, Jack, and his guest, Charlie Kirk, which I like Charlie Kirk.
I'm liking him a little
indifferent.
better.
Yeah, he was good last night.
He was good last night.
He was really good last night.
As he gets older, he gets a little less punkier and a little more and a little more intellectual and composed.
He's maturing.
Exactly.
Is that the word you're looking for? All right. So today, well, first of all, the show, in case you don't know, is we have a devotional we're currently following called My Utmost for His Highest by Oswald Chambers. And this is a book that a friend of mine gave me, Bruce Lynn. Several months ago, I started reading it. I would ride my bike to the park and set up a camera, and it just became a thing. It's continued on. Hedia and I met. We got married.
Congratulations to us.
And I think a lot of it has to do with these devotionals too. I mean, we would probably still be in the same position, but it really has helped us grow closer together, if I may say so myself.
Absolutely. Say so on both of our behalf.
Yes.
You speak for both of us.
Yes. Let's see who's on. Carissa. Hey, Carissa, nice to see you. How are things in... I forgot if you went to Florida or Tennessee. She abandoned us from California. Carissa is one of the people that left us. She lived in San Diego, which is a beautiful area.
Wow.
And
because of all the shenanigans out here?
Yes. They just escaped. They ran off with their kids and her husband, and they took off on me. How dare they? They would have been good partners to fight alongside.
Wow.
I think her husband's in the military. Am I wrong? Or a fireman? One of those things. I forget.
Florida.
Yeah, I knew it. You jerk.
Peace out.
Peace out. How dare you? All right. So let's get to the devotional by Oswald Chambers. We'll get to that. And then I have a few things to say, but Hedia's going to go first today.
What? No.
Hey, I'm in charge. All right. Let's get to the devotional. Enough shenanigans. Oops, I didn't change my background. I did it again. That's okay. We'll leave it up. All right. So let's go back to the top here. So here's the picture. Am I looking to God? By Oswald Chambers. And the first reference here is actually the only reference in this particular devotional is to Isaiah 45:22. Look to me and be saved. Do we expect God to come to us with his blessings and save us? He says, look to me and be saved. The greatest difficulty spiritually is to concentrate on God, and his blessings are what make it so difficult. Troubles almost always make us look to God, but his blessings tend to divert our attention elsewhere. The basic lesson of the Sermon on the Mount is to narrow all your interest until your mind, heart, and body are focused on Jesus Christ. Look to me. Many of us have a mental picture of what a Christian should be, and looking at the image in other Christians' lives becomes a hindrance to our focusing on God. This is not salvation. It is not simple enough. He says, in effect, look to me and you are saved. Not, you will be saved someday. We will find what we are looking for if we will concentrate on him. We get distracted from God and irritable with him while he continues to say to us, look to me and be saved. Our difficulties, our trials, and our worries about tomorrow all vanish when we look to God. Wake yourself up and look to God. Build your hope on him, no matter how many things seem to be pressing in on you. Be determined to push them aside and look to him. Look to me. Salvation is yours the moment you look. I didn't look at the bottom here on the wisdom from Oswald. We are in danger of being stern where God is tender, and being tender where God is stern. The love of God. And this is from The Message of Invincible Consolation. Oh, that's actually, I wish I would have read that earlier too. There's always some gold in there somewhere that I often forget about. Did vote for Newsom and what? I
did vote Newsom out.
Oh, good. Thank you. Before you left, thank you for doing that, making sure that, I'm glad.
Your last hurrah.
Yes. So what comes to mind when we, when I read this devotional?
Wow. Now I know why you were going back to the clips. So Andy and I had quite different responses to last night. A lot, if I may say so.
Yes, that's true. That is very true.
As I was sitting there towards the end, as we were driving there, I went into prayer because I had this inclination that last night was going to be very, very heavy on me. And lo and behold, when we get there and towards the end, I felt entirely overwhelmed because a lot of the things that they were laying out, I had professionally experienced, the counterterrorism programs and the fact that, just talking about us as Christian conservatives now becoming domestic terrorists. We don't have, technically speaking, any domestic terrorist laws on the books, and the fact that may start. I was just entirely overwhelmed by what my mind, where it was taking me.
So just in case, you worked as a contractor with the FBI.
Yes, I was actually in a personal service contractor, I was treated as an employee. So I was inside the FBI.
And while you were in Washington, D.C., you worked under 5 different presidents.
Yes.
You were in the know. That's how you know a little bit about Charlie Kirk and that kind of stuff. But I just want people to have like a context of, because not everybody knows you.
Yes.
Right?
I've done counterterrorism for 25 years. So,
and you came from the Muslim faith
yes.
And became Christian. So when they're talking about counterterrorism against Americans, domestic terrorism is what they're calling it.
Yes.
This hit a chord with you.
Exactly. Okay. Exactly. Sorry about that.
That's
didn't provide that background, but it really, it just blew my mind. The thought of those programs that I helped build, the teams I've helped build in a dozen cities across America, when I was at the FBI, could now be turned against us, against me. And I was entirely overwhelmed. And I sat there in prayer and I said, I tried to look to God. It's exactly what this devotional says. And I heard him say to me, daughter, do not let your heart be troubled, which comes from John 14. So it was exactly what Oswald is saying, is that if you allow your attention to be diverted, so salvation happens, our eternal salvation happens in an instant, but the ability for God to save us in every moment from anxiety and fear and concern is something we have to consciously do when we look at him, is that we have to look towards him so that his peace can descend on us and that his comfort and his surety and strength and courage can come over us when our flesh is weak. So that is absolutely what I was feeling. Yes.
Yeah, you were. Yeah, I came out kind of like, well, I'm ready to fight with Jack. Because he talked about how, and just to kind of continue on what you were just talking about, towards the end, Jack, you were very moved by what he was saying, is that they're going to come after me. And to make sure that he had all of his, ducks in a row in regard to, IRS and his relationship and about, they're going to come after him with everything, because we know the lies that they come up with, right? With President Trump, they came up with something they call the PP tape, that he, this horrible thing that they lied about and tried to use it against him, like this, like a completely made up story. Right. And they, all these other big, with President Trump, he's who he is. You probably didn't have to make much up. Just use, the stuff that he was a womanizer and that kind of stuff. And go, but why did you have, you have to make this other stuff up. I can't imagine what they might make up about Jack and attack him. And you being fairly close to him in one sense, as
he's my spiritual father.
He's your spiritual father, just hit you hard. And again, I was looking at it like, man, I'm right there with Jack. I cannot wait for the fight.
Our pastor had to come on what was live TV and say, I've only slept with one woman in 43 years. Just the fact that our pastor, my spiritual father, has to come on TV and say, I've only slept with one woman, was like, oh my God, it could make me cry now that he has to come out and say that to us. I don't cheat on my taxes. I don't cheat on my wife. I don't drink alcohol. I don't do drugs. I need you guys to know that. I mean, that broke my heart.
It just hit me differently now that you said. I was so pumped up from everything else, but now that you're mentioning it, it's pretty sad.
Yeah.
That's who we know is in charge of our country.
Right.
We know what they do. We've seen them do it. And what the tools they have available to them now. We've given them so many resources to take us out. Yeah. Well, now I have no idea what to say about my.
Don't let your heart be troubled.
Well, that's so funny. But the thing that I really wanted to focus on for what I thought about, wow, you just really kicked my butt with what you just talked about.
See, that's why I was in the car and you're like, what's wrong?
How dare you? Oh, I was so pumped up and ready to go. I even put my Trump shirt on. I was like, let's go. Let's go. But the lessons where he talks about the basic lessons of the Sermon on the Mount is to narrow all our interest until your mind, heart, and body are focused on Jesus. Look to me. And what that really made me think of is that I didn't realize before as a Christian, as I was walking around calling myself a Christian, is that I was not doing any training. The training being is that everybody, goes to the doctor when they're sick. When they finally can't take it anymore, they go to the doctor. Like they go, help me. I'm dying. Keep me alive or get rid of this pain. Right. At some point, even men will find, okay, just load me in the car and take me to the doctor. And that's how it is but we don't think about doctors any other time. Really, right. We don't pay attention to them. We really could care less what they do, but we really care about, hey, what's your education? You know what you're doing. Are you a Republican or a Democrat? And you try to look and see what you're wearing if you're a Democrat. So, I mean, you don't worry about anything about them until you need them. Same thing with God. As a Christian earlier in my walk, is that it was just, that's what we do, right? When things are bad, God, please help make things better, right? We begin to pray more often. We begin to read the Bible a little more often. We go, I should go to church this Sunday. Things are really bad. And we go, the training part comes in is when things are good, is that you have the same desire to love God and be with God and be in the Word and do devotionals and stay in it. Things are fantastic for me personally right now.
Me too.
Financials could be a lot better and they're getting better. And I hope, and I'm praying that they're going to get better. But overall, I am more in the Word now because of the training that I put myself into. Actually, when I was probably sick with COVID was the biggest part. Is almost like a boot camp.
Oh.
But I've carried it on just because I got healthier and things got better. I didn't stop.
Yes.
And so I don't know, I mean, I've heard about the Sermon on the Mount and I've read a little bit about it and that kind of stuff. But when that particular part of it is that the lesson is to narrow all your interest until your mind, heart, body, and soul are focused on Jesus Christ. That is a very good lesson because it will help you get through those times that are difficult and those burdens that fall upon you. That you know where to go, you know who you're talking to, you know who you love, you know who you count on, and you know that he's not the one that's. I used to think that he was punishing me, right? But that's so different. He loves me, right? He loves me, and so. Anyway, that's actually what I saw when I was reading that. But now you've completely took me into a whole nother place, which is probably a good thing. I think I have it lined up. I'm going to share. Mark Driscoll is a pastor we like to follow out of Scottsdale, Arizona. For our honeymoon, we're going to go to Scottsdale, Arizona, and go to the church.
Yes.
Can you ask? Everybody else, we're going to go to Tahiti. We're going to go.
We want to visit our second favorite pastor.
We want to go to Hawaii. And we decided, hey, you want to go to see? Yes. Let's go to Scottsdale, Arizona and see Mark Driscoll over at the Trinity Church there. Sorry, I got to talk and do something at the same time here, which I'm glad I'm not chewing gum because I'd probably fall out of my chair. Here we go. So this is from a message called Pray Like Jesus. And this is part 2. Good. And he's talking about burdens here, and he's going to talk about his burden. I'm going to let this roll a little bit. It's a little bit longer clip than what most people probably do on a live show like this. But I think it's worthwhile for him to hear his story. If you don't know his story, he started a church somewhere else. It was in Northern California, right?
Seattle.
Seattle. Way northern than Northern California. Seattle. And he has a way of speaking that is just like me.
No nonsense.
If you watch
Straight
my
out.
Andy Falco show, I say things that I probably shouldn't say. He says things, but he still remains biblical.
Absolutely.
Right. And so it's just who he is. So he's going to be talking about how during that period of time that he and his family were forced out of the church that they built. And then kind of and some of the things went through. So I just want to share it with you because it talks about the burdens. And I think this is pretty close to closer. I thought it was going to be close to what I was sharing. But based on what Hedia talked about, I think this is a pretty good clip to share with you guys. All right, here we go.
And what Jesus is not saying is life has no burdens, but what he is saying is some burdens are too much for you. So I'm going to come and I'm going to yoke with you and I'm going to carry your burdens with you and I'm going to walk with you, never leave you nor forsake you. And sometimes God does this. The Holy Spirit brings to mind Galatians. It's weird when I teach. It's just kind of a verbal process in the Spirit. But in Galatians, it says to bear one another's burdens. Let me say this, that sometimes when we bear one another's burdens, it's Jesus in us bearing their burden. It's Jesus through us bearing their burdens. Sometimes Jesus just carries the burden with us, and sometimes he sends one of his people in whom he dwells by the Spirit to carry the burden. When my wife and I were in the hardest season of our whole life, reputation attacked, finances wrecked, safety at an all-time high, people committing crimes against our family. I mean, just horror. It was horror. I was not doing well. I had hand tremors. I had nervous eye twitch. I'm burdened. We met with a godly counselor, pastor, filled with the Spirit, like a spiritual father for about 18 months. And there were times that we would meet and he would ask, okay, what's going on this week? And I'd tell him. And he would just be like, we need to pray. What I appreciate is he didn't say, well, tell me who they are and I'll seek vengeance on them. What he didn't say was, well, let me jump on social media and argue and fight with them. What I appreciate is he didn't say, well, how about we start a group text and we light them up. What he didn't say was, well, you just need to vent, get it all out, let the world know what's going on. And what he didn't say was, here's how you fix it. Because you know what? Some things can't fix. Here's what he said. That is a real burden. He said, you can't carry that. We need to pray and transfer that burden to Jesus. There were times that we spent our whole hour in prayer. And he would literally walk over to us and he'd lay hands on my wife and I as we're praying together. And we would he said, okay, name the burden. We'd name the burden. And then he literally would pretend like he was lifting it. He would walk over, old guy, to a garbage can and he'd throw it in. I was like, what are you doing? He's like, we got to get rid of those burdens. My question to you is, what burdens do you need to get rid of, friend? The reason that some of you are so burdened is you've not learned to transfer the burden in prayer. Prayer is where we transfer the burden to Jesus. At that season, Pastor Jimmy Evans, who's one of our overseers and one of our pastors, we love him very much. He asked me, he said, Mark, how are you doing? I said, I'm struggling. I'm burdened. He said, well, how's your prayer life? I said, it's really good. I'm talking to the Father all the time. He says, well, if you're talking to the Father, why are you still burdened? He said, you're not praying, you're complaining to God. It's not prayer until you transfer the burden. I was like, okay, well then let me edit my assessment. I'm not praying a lot, I'm complaining a lot. My complaining life is very solid.
You got emotional. I'm so sorry. You want to share?
I I just am. I'm burdened by what our pastor is going through, and that's exactly why the Lord's like, daughter, don't let your heart be troubled. And I tried very hard to transfer the burden, and I prayed really hard to transfer the burden last night while we were there, while we were going home, and it's just it's hard. It's hard. It's
Yeah. Well, this is exciting times.
See, that's a man of courage and a woman. I was just like, oh, and I consider myself pretty tough.
Yeah,
you know?
me too.
I'm pretty
It's
tough.
hard for me to see you this way.
I am pretty tough, but that broke me.
It
Really did. It just I just the flood of emotions, and I think it's because it's connected to what I professionally know. So, he mentioned about getting audited and the church, and that we could close any day now. And it's just, so it's my nonprofit law experience, it's my IRS experience, it's just the counterterrorism stuff. And I just was flooded with that as if it was a burden on me, as a parishioner of his. But, the Lord's like, no, you can't. You're not capable of carrying this. None of you are capable of carrying this. I'm carrying it.
The last paragraph of the devotion will end on this is wake yourself up and look to God. Build your hope on him. No matter how many things seem to be pressing in on you, be determined to push them aside and look to him. Look to me. Salvation is yours the moment you look. I love you. Thanks for sharing. I know that was hard. God bless you guys. Oh, that's your line.
God bless you.
Have a great day. We'll talk to you guys later. Take care.